It's been a long week, but it's been a hectic week. It's been a fast week, I can't explain the feelings. Like I'm back and forth with my former teammates and everything. A bunch of guys are going, and the team offered tickets to Legends players.
Sure.
That were a part of. I believe, I don't know how they did it, but it might have been guys that were a part of either one of the two Super Bowls in the 80s.
Okay.
And they're having a big tailgate out there and everything, and it's going to be great. And I think there's a lot of positivity. A lot of guys are jacked up, man. I know I am jacked up. I know all the Bengal fans in my life are jacked up. Everybody's really, really, just totally all in on Sunday.
Well, it's fun to see you get this excited about something because I know it's the Rangers are your team, and you're a big fan. You love the Mets. You love the Knicks. But there's something special about what's going on here with the fact that you were the last quarterback to bring the Bengals to a Super Bowl, and here we are, and you do the show every day, and you're on the NFL Today, and you represent the organization as well as you do, and it's fun to see, and that's why I'm totally into it, and we're totally into it.
I can see that. I can see that you're totally into it.
And I just hope that all of this momentum that we have created here is positive, and you don't look at this as like the NARP mush that we're putting on you.
No. I think you guys are all rooting. Nobody is guaranteeing anything.
Okay, all right.
I think you guys are just trying to root. And I did a speaking engagement for Procter & Gamble last night.
Oh, nice.
And I told them, because obviously a Cincinnati-based company and everybody's all jacked up out there and everything else, I said, look, man, I am trying to convince New Yorkers, New Jerseyans, and everybody else in the tri-state area to bring all this great positivity that we have around here and push it towards the Bengals. Because who gives a little rat's ass about the Rams?
Nobody.
Honestly.
There's nothing about the only thing about the Rams for me is Aaron Donald, because I was with him at Pitt, but I don't even care about that because the Rams, there's just nothing fun about them at all. I mean, who cares? I mean, they went out and they got Matt Stafford, and they went out and got Jalen Ramsey a couple years ago, and they went out and got Odell Beckham Jr. They tried to put together this super team. They don't even have a fan base out there. I mean, the Bengals represent, all of those teams, in my opinion, that have not won a Super Bowl yet. I mean, that's why I think this is so cool, because it reminds me, too, of my own team that I've rooted for my entire life getting a shot in the game, who had been there before and, of course, couldn't get it done. So this is great for all. It gives all those franchises that have never won a Super Bowl hope on Sunday that they can get it done. And no cooler dude in the world than Joe Burrow representing them. And you would think, you don't want to say this because you never know how a career is going to go, but you would think that he'd get this team back into the game again because he's so good, so confident, not overwhelmed by any situation. It's going to be awesome watching him play in a Super Bowl, and I'll tell you this much. He's not going to have sweaty hands. He's not going to be clammy. He's not going to be nervous. The moment will not be too big for him. This guy was built for this. He's one of those guys that just he popped out of the womb a winner, and we saw that in college, and we're seeing it in the NFL.
I agree 100%, and that's why I can't wait for it. It's just going to be an unbelievable Sunday leading up to it. I mean, it's going to be like 90 degrees out there. And remember, the game out there will start about 3:30, and I would imagine the second half will be much cooler simply because the sun will go down, and it tends to get a little bit cooler out there at night because of the Pacific Ocean and all that other stuff. But I don't know. This is just I'm finally, really grasping the reality that this is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, for almost 20 years sitting on the NFL Today, or for 20 years sitting on the NFL Today, we had a little bit. I could sit there for Carson Palmer, I could sit there for Andy Dalton, and of course the great Marvin Lewis. But there was always something going on. There was always something that made the team take a right-hand turn and basically screw something up.
Yeah.
And now at least this year and at least the last 2 months, this team has won 6 out of its last 7 games. The one that they lost didn't matter because that was the last game in Cleveland that they didn't have to play in. So essentially they've won 6 in a row. Their kicker has been amazing. Their defense has gotten turnovers. Defense have gotten key sacks. Lou Anarumo has done a great job with the defense. And here they are. And here they are just amazingly with an offensive line that has been shaky to say the least, but a quarterback that has been able to overcome all of that. And then an offensive coordinator in terms of Zach Taylor knowing how to call the plays, getting everybody involved, getting the ball out of the hands of Joe Burrow. So, man, I'm all in. I mean, I'm like totally all in. I'm biased 100%.
Oh, sure.
And I have to be. I mean, like, this is not the NFL today. This is the Boomer and Geo show, for God's sake.
Of course. Now, if I was curious, I wanted to ask you this. If this was a CBS Super Bowl,
Yes.
and you had to do the pregame show with the Bengals in the game, what would have happened then?
Well, did you watch me in our pregame shows against the Raiders, the Titans, and the Chiefs?
It's different, though, when you're on for 7 hours and 8 hours.
I don't know. I probably would have had 2 or 3 different interviews. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably what would have happened. I guess it would have been you, at Burrow, you and this, you and that. All right.
Right. So that which was good that I'm not doing the game because I can really just be a fan.
Right.
And that's the nice thing. But even at the end of our shows when we were making the picks, I would look at the other guys and go, "What are you guys looking at? I don't know what you're looking at." I think somebody might have picked the Bengals against the Raiders. I think we probably all picked the Bengals against the Raiders.
Sure.
But then I stayed on that train the whole time, and those guys jumped off.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't think they were going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs as much as badly as I wanted them to. I really didn't think it was going to happen. And then the way the game started, I said, wow, I mean, this at least I nailed this one. But nope, the defense changed dramatically. We talked about plenty how Lou Anarumo was just a genius in that game in that second half. So, yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, I know they've been an underdog this entire postseason, but there's really nothing about the LA Rams that is going to scare the hell out of you.
So right now, the Rams are 3.5-point favorites. It's come down a little bit.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, my team, I think we were 7.5-point underdogs. And believe me, we played that up the whole week. Sam played it up the whole week, and that was before, you were allowed to even talk about betting.
Sure.
But now you could really talk about betting, and the coaches can use all of that. And the Bengals have definitely over the last 4 weeks, I don't know so much about the Raiders, but against the Titans, the Chiefs, and now against the Rams, they certainly have played that underdog card, which every football coach does at every level. You know that.
Of course.
I mean, every football coach is looking for an edge. And the edge really, I think if you were out in L.A., you got to believe that the OBJ story is huge. You got to believe that Sean McVay having to win this game because he lost the previous one. I mean, like all that kind of stuff is probably hitting the Bengals over the head, like left and right. And I'm sure Zach Taylor is hammering that kind of stuff home. But I'm also sure that he's probably saying, look, man, I've been through this before. I was with the Rams when we lost to the Patriots, and our offense didn't play well in that game. And, I learned from that just like I'm sure Sean McVay felt like he learned from that. Now, the interesting thing about the Bengals, everybody's like, offense. They've only scored 5 touchdowns in the playoffs. They've had 12 field goals. And the field goals, kicker Evan McPherson has been amazing.
I mean, and as confident as they come, too.
That's right. So, and what goes under the radar, and I know a lot, any of us who have played or anybody that's been talking about this game for the last week, everybody says what goes under the radar is that Bengal defense and how timely some of these huge plays they've made, whether it be the interception at the end of the Titan game, the sack and the fumble against Kansas City.
Yep.
The huge play by Jesse Bates knocking the ball to Von Bell, breaking up a pass intended for Tyreek Hill. And then there have been coaches and players that have made key mistakes during these games against the Bengals, and they have basically pounced on every one of those mistakes, whether it be going for 2 when Mike Vrabel didn't have to, whether it be going for the touchdown with 5 seconds to go in the first half when Andy Reid should have kicked the field goal there. I mean, there's a lot of things that are lining up for the Bengals.
Yeah, and the one take that I hear a lot is actually something that Jerry said this morning on the warm-up show for people who think that the Rams are going to win is Rams defensive line against Bengals offensive line, and how that could be a problem for the Bengals because you look back and you saw the game against the Titans and you saw how that defensive line of the Titans dominated the offensive line. Joe Burrow gets sacked 9 times, and the Rams offense far better than the Titans offense. And if something like that happens again, chances are that the Bengals offense may not be able to overcome it. I mean, that's a take for the people who are on the Rams side that it's hard to argue against.
No, but it's a true take because even I will tell you, and I said it earlier this morning, and I said it going into the game against the Raiders where Max Crosby was lined up.
Yeah.
So most of the pressure has been coming from the defensive left side, which means the offensive right side, and that's where they lost their free agent tackle that they signed, Riley Reif. They've had a revolving door at right guard. And, I mean, I'm not even sure who's starting for them at right guard in this particular game, but because they're getting a guy back from injury, I think they played at Clemson. But the point being is you're playing against the best defensive lineman of his era and maybe one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time. And he can he'll outdo the best of guards and tackles, let alone the undrafted free agents or the guys that are really having a hell of a time in the playoffs. So he's a menace. But the Bengals have gone with a lot of 6-man blocking schemes,
sure,
with an extra offensive lineman on the field and stuff like that. And I'm sure Zach Taylor will have something to try to nullify the quick pass rush that Aaron Donald will create. But Joe Burrow gets the ball out of his hands. He doesn't fumble when he does get sacked, so it's not like a Daniel Jones situation.
Right.
And hopefully that stays the way it is, because he's going to get hit and he's going to get sacked. There's no question about that. But then, the funny thing happened in the second half of that game against the Chiefs, and in overtime, all of a sudden the offensive line started taking over. And they started running the ball with Joe Mixon. And Joe Burrow was getting the ball out of his hands, and big plays were being made. So the offensive line really showed out in the second half and overtime against Kansas City. So I don't know. This is what it comes down to. It's always about the line of scrimmage and whether or not the quarterback can handle the pressure. And I know Burrow can. Let's see if Matthew Stafford can now.
Yeah, there's always one wide receiver, too, out of the two guys, whether it be Higgins or Boyd, who ends up having a big game because there's so much attention towards Jamar Chase. And I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on, too. Will Jamar Chase and another one of those wide receivers go off in this game? Will it be one of these high-scoring games, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which I hope that it is. Now, we got 6 straight spectacular football games in the playoffs, and I think that this one is going to shape up to be just that as well. I think both offenses are going to be great in the game.
Too many good offensive players on the field, honestly. Yeah. They're great defensive players for the Bengals, too. Trey Hendrickson had a great year. Hubbard had a great year. They get their share of sacks, too. It's not like they're in the bottom half of the league in sacks.
Right, no, not at all.
And Lou Anarumo knows this time around you're playing against Matthew Stafford. He's 34 years old. He doesn't move around nearly as much as Patrick Mahomes. So it's going to be more of a statuesque type of quarterback. Maybe he blitzes a little bit more. Maybe he gets after him instead of sitting and only sending 3 guys.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to worry about spying against Matthew Stafford. He can move, and he will move, but you don't have to worry about that aspect of the game as much as you did if you're playing against like a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, or a Patrick Mahomes. So look, I'm just excited, man.
Yeah, we all are, man.
This is it. Jersey, and I'm excited. What can I tell you?
We all are, and it's finally here after 2 weeks of waiting. And just can't wait for it to get started on Sunday night.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.